This is the story of a pilot, known as the Candy Bomber and Uncle Wiggly Wings, a man who brought hope and joy to the hearts of Berlin children during the beginning of the Cold War, the Berlin blockade. In 1945, after World War II, control of Germany and Berlin was divided between the Soviets in the east and the Americans, French, and British in the west. West Berlin was landlocked within Soviet-controlled territory, but the Soviets left land routes from the west open into it. These routes were the only flow of essential supplies into West Berlin. On June 21, 1948, as tensions between the two sides escalated, the Soviets closed these routes, leaving open only 3 air corridors into the West Berlin airports. A massive airlift began immediately. On June 25th, General Joseph Smith was appointed temporary commander of the airlift, called Operation Vittles. All American C-47 cargo aircraft in West Germany began flights to Berlin. By July, C-54s, much larger cargo aircraft, began to arrive in West Germany in large numbers. Slowly, the Americans phased out the C-47s and switched to only using C-54s, of which there were over 225 in the airlift. The British were using a wide variety of aircraft. Very soon, the C-54s were given a specific flight pattern into Berlin. They would fly at 5 different altitudes, 3 minutes apart, into Berlin using the southern corridor. They would then land at Tempelhof Airport, unload, and return to their airbase using the center corridor. On July 27th, General William H. Tunner was given full control of the airlift. He immediately instituted regulations that made the operation more effective and able to supply enough to keep the entire population of Berlin alive. The airlift continued this way until its end, more than a year later. On July 11th, Lieutenant Gail Halvorsen arrived in West Germany as a C-54 pilot. He quickly began flights into Berlin, usually 3 a day. His poor impression of Germans was destroyed when he first met them, and he became dedicated to what he was doing. One day, his curiosity of Berlin building, Halvorsen decided to spend his break time in the city. Gail Halvorsen was born in the area of Salt Lake City, Utah on October 10, 1920. As a boy, he fell in love with flying, and after getting his pilot's license, he joined the U.S. Air Force at the age of 21. He actively flew cargo missions during World War II, and because he had experience flying C-54s, Halvorsen volunteered to go fly the Berlin airlift in place of a friend who was already married and had children. Halvorsen flew into Berlin with another crew to visit the city, the remainder of his own crew choosing to spend their time off in West Germany. After landing at Tempelhof, Halvorsen went over to the fence surrounding the airport, right where the planes passed overhead.
I was just expecting to take pictures of the airplanes coming over the bombed out building. There were no kids there, so I stopped. And then the children came. So I was just expecting to take pictures. If I ever got married, to show my wife what it was like coming over the bombed out buildings in Berlin. That's all. In case I had kids, I'd show my kids.
But Halvorsen, right there, got more than he would have ever expected. He began talking with the kids, who elected a few good English speakers to be their representatives. Halvorsen was moved by the fact that they did not ask for any candy, so he decided to give them what he had.
I said, I gotta do something. That's when I'll have 2 sticks of gum, gonna start a fight, get out of here. Said I'll never see him again, give it to him. Broke it in half, 4 pieces. Kids that got the half a stick shared the wrapper, thin strips of the paper, and passed to the other kids. And they took that piece of paper and smelled it, and smelled it, and smelled it. I stood there dumbfounded. Come to the States, we had everything. And those kids, for smell of the piece of paper, held in their hand like a $100 bill to take back and show a mother or father, or some an uncle. Many didn't have a father and mother. Hardly any had a father and neither mother or a father.
Seeing how selfless they were, Halvorsen promised to bring them more candy. He told them he would drop it out of his plane. When they asked, "How will we know it's you?" he responded, "I'll wiggle my wings." Halvorsen gathered up his candy ration and the ration of his crew members. The next time he flew over the airport perimeter, he threw out the candies, tied to small parachutes. Although he was afraid of getting in trouble for what he was doing, he continued to do it, many times. Then one day, something made him stop.
And then the weather got back in West Germany. The weatherman didn't come with the airplane. Had to run into base office to find out where we could land in West Germany. Well, I had enough fuel to get to Berlin West Germany and hold for about 20 minutes. We'd had to know where we could get land in West Germany. I went to base ops. There in the map planning tables, a huge stack of mail. My girlfriend had written me for 2 weeks. I wondered what all that mail was for. And I wasn't looking for it in Berlin, I was looking for it in West Germany. I went up close to it, look at it, while the weatherman came up, and I broke out in a cold sweat. To Uncle Wiggly wings, Temple base operation. The Schokoladenflieger, Temple base. Holy cow, I said, we're in trouble.
A few days later, Halvorsen was approached by an officer.
An officer comes steaming on the airplane, said, who's flying this airplane? My buddy's pointing to me. He said, here. Why? Colonel Hahn wants to see you right now. I see Colonel Hahn, Halvorsen, what have you been doing? Flying like that, sir. You're not stupid, he said. What else have you been doing? And then for 15 minutes, I was going to be court-martialed. Don't you know in the military, there's no excuse? Yes, sir. He said, then General Tenner called up. Says, Colonel Hahn, what are you doing dropping parachutes over Berlin? Oh, General, we're not dropping parachutes over Berlin. Colonel, you'd better find out what's going on in your outfit. Clunk. He said, I'll never get promoted. Well, that's what he was thinking anyway. Well, I was a chip keeper. And you young people here, when you get a job, don't sandbag your boss. That means keep your boss informed and don't try and impress his boss, okay? I wasn't trying to impress anybody. I didn't want anybody to know about it. Well, General Tenner said it's a good idea, let keep going.
The newly approved of Operation Little Vittles resumed, and pilots in the airlift began to drop candy all over West Berlin. Halvorsen was sent to the U.S. to talk about the operation, and there he got a giant donation of candy from the Confectioners Association of America. Over 2 train cars full. Donations from all over the U.S. started pouring in, and an old fire station in Chicopee, Massachusetts became the center where all donations were collected, packed, and shipped to Germany. The operation was going full steam now, and the majority of Berlin kids were enjoying it greatly.
I was 8 years old, and I was a little tiny kid, skinny, and there were bully kids. I mean, maybe the first ones at the fence weren't, but later they were. And it was my mother who got the candy for me. I was there, and I couldn't get any. They would beat me, you know. And so my mother came, and she got Hershey chocolate bar and 1 double mint gum.
Did you really look forward to the candy?
You bet your sweet bippy.
The
I haven't had chocolate for years, so yes.
Operation Little Vittles proudly continued until the end of the Berlin blockade, May 12, 1949. Normal ground supply convoys began to travel to Berlin from West Germany. The airlift was continued until September, however, as a precautionary measure should the Soviets had changed their minds. Today, Gail Halvorsen lives in Spanish Fork, Utah, and although he is nearly 90 years old, he continues to travel around the U.S., Germany, and other parts of the world, spreading a message of unselfishness and doing commemorative candy drops for children. Gail Halvorsen was an important individual in history. The Berlin airlift strengthened anti-communist feelings in Germany, but Halvorsen and his actions are to this day seen as the symbol of American-German relations. Although Gail Halvorsen's intentions were purely to help the children of Berlin and to add some joy to their lives, he accomplished much, much more.